I think Mr. Johnson mentioned to me that you guys might have done something sort of similar, but even if you did something sort of similar, that doesn't mean you can't do this in a completely new and different and fun way. So we are creating an illustrated book project, okay? This is worth 65 points, but you have this entire week to work on this. I'm going to show you, these are practice points. I'm going to show you some examples. Ooh, that reminds me. Speaking of assessment points, remember when we had those 70 assessment points for the famous dinner table? If you didn't get the full 70 assessment points, I gave you feedback on the assignment. It'll have a button up in the top right-hand corner that said View Rubric, and it tells you exactly why you lost points. And you can always fix what you did wrong and resubmit it and get full points. Okay, screen facing me all the way. So these are some real examples from kids just like you who had my class way back when. And this is what they created for the illustrated book project. Nicholas, go ahead and show me your screen at this point. So this girl, she put in way more time and effort than is required. Every single time you see a different color, she cut that out of paper and then glued each piece on individually, which is kind of insane. Same, like this is a lot of scrapbooking. I'm not expecting that anyone does this much. This is way more time and effort. Same with this one, like each individual hair, she had to glue those on one at a time. That's a lot of time and effort, but it looks amazing. This is a totally different one. They took The Nightmare Before Christmas and wanted to make it more Eastery. And so they did the creative writing and then they did the art themselves. This girl, she didn't feel confident with writing, so she would trace her pictures on her Chromebook, and that's great. And then she would cut them out after. But notice how even little details, like having those little like swoops and swirls on each page, makes it that much more exciting. This girl, she wanted her book to be her Christmas present for her little sister. So she made her little sister the main character, and then she wrote a fun story that she knew her sister would love. And again, like this maybe isn't the world's most perfect art, but it sure shows effort and like someone who was trying. Go ahead and scoop Jen, Sam. Here's another one of this is better than I'm expecting. This girl spent extra time and effort. But she was from Florida. She had moved to Utah from Florida, and she really missed the beach and the ocean. So she turned it into a story. This one was cool. This one wasn't so much a story. This was a girl who loved poetry. And so instead of it being one big story, each poem was its own little story. And this is not required, but she brought her own watercolor paints to class the week we did this. And each poem, she did a little simple painting to go along with it. And again, not the world's most perfect art, but it sure shows effort. This girl had a hedgehog for a pet, and she loved her hedgehog, and so she put it into a story, and it turned out so cute. And here's her writing. Here's the same girl. This is the girl who did the scrapbooking kind of one at the beginning. She took my class 2 years in a row. And so every single little color, like this was a strip of paper that she cut out and pasted in. So way more effort than I'm expecting. But I'm just showing you some really cool ones. Emmeline is near and dear to my heart. Emmeline Herbstra, I taught her 14 years ago, and she passed away last year. She was climbing a mountain and had an accident, and that was sad. So this is in honor of Emmeline, who I loved. Emmeline was awesome. She was an 8th grade girl, and she was so good at hockey, and she loved hockey. So she made an A to Z. She basically was teaching the reader. Here's cool things about hockey that you don't know, and each letter, like R is for refs, right? And she took each one of those pictures. She did it with a camera, so she did her art a little differently. This girl, I swear, is going to be a famous artist one day, because I can't do art anywhere near this good. But like, how beautiful is that? She didn't trace that. She did that by hand. And her story was about this Eskimo, and it was really, really cool. And I cannot talk. Befriends, there's the word, a polar bear. So just like different cute ideas here, right? There's lots of ways to do this. I'm just trying to show you a bunch of different ones so you can get inspired. Your illustrated book doesn't have to be a cute little kid book. That's not a rule at all. So let me tell you how simple this is. You're going to create any story and you're going to illustrate it, right? Because writing and art go hand in hand. It could be funny. It could be serious. It could be scary. Anything goes. It's something that you are meant to enjoy. So the way this gets graded is really easy. You're going to have 5 whole class periods, remember. So that you've got a ton of time to do this during class. So you're going to do 35 high quality sentences, which means, so high quality means it's actually creative. It's interesting. You tried to make it correctly written. 20 points for your art. So you have to have at least 4 high quality illustrated something. And so art is kind of a debatable term, you guys. Art might be, I drew it myself. I traced it myself. I did photography. I did painting. I did scrapbooking. I made a collage. All of those are art. So whatever visual thing that supports your written story, that's all that art means. So you have to have 4 different pieces of art. Each one of them is worth 5 points. You're not allowed to just get the picture from Google. This is different than like Fractured Fairy Tale where we just took the picture from Google. These, you are creating it yourself. I'm not expecting perfection. I just want to see effort. That's all I'm going to grade you on. Then you get a 5 points just for an awesome front cover. So the front cover, Lily, should have 3 things. It should have another piece of art. So that means technically you have 5 total. Nathan's green. You should have the title of your book. And you should have your name. That's what's required on the front cover. And then the back cover is also worth 5 points. Just like any of those books on the shelf, you should have a little blurb on the back cover of like, here's what this book is about, and give a little quick idea of what they're going to find when they crack open your book. What will they see? So other important information, any topic, anything that you personally actually like. If you want yours to be like a cool story about Avengers, great. If you want your story to be all about cats, like Lily's over here doodling cats, great, right? Like whatever fun thing, if it's really scary, like ghost stories, that's fine too. We're going to create our books on paper. We're not creating it electronically, and that's a little bit different for us. We haven't done a lot of that, so this project is kind of meant to get us off of our Chromebooks for a little bit. It should look and feel like a book, just like these Mike Lowry Pizza Shark books. Rose screen. It's supposed to be something that like I can hold in my hands, I can turn the pages. You're not just going to be uploading a Google Doc, you're going to turn in an actual book that you made. So, even though you have to create your book all on your own, it doesn't mean I'm not going to let you sit where you want while you work on your story. But there's a writing contest piece, which we're going to talk about in just a second. And because it's a writing contest, you can't create it with someone else. So we're going to talk more about that in just a second. And there's no need to spend any money on this. If you need art supplies, you're going to ask me. And I'm going to try and do my best to make sure you have any art supply you need. If it's something really specialized, like the girl who brought the watercolors, those you would have to provide yourself. But otherwise, I've got plenty of art supplies. You shouldn't have to spend any money on this. So, almost done. And then I promise I'm going to let you ask questions. So, like, the only hard part about this is getting the idea, right? Maybe it could be something about a life lesson. Maybe you're going to do what that one girl did, and maybe yours is going to be a special Christmas present for your little brother or your little sister that teaches them an important life lesson. Or if you want to do something like a Fractured Fairy Tale, it would have to be different, completely different than the one you did earlier, but that's totally okay. If you love a certain animal and you want to make that animal like Pizza Shark, if you want to make them into a story, great. If you want to do some sort of like adventurous, like here's this cool character and I'm sending them like on a pirate adventure, great. If you want to do something scary, if you want to do a sequel to something that already exists, or a prequel, like if you want to do Harry Potter as a 5-year-old, right? Something like that, that's totally fine. If you want to do the Avengers, like a new version of something that already exists, awesome. If you want to do poetry, that's totally fine. Some kids think way ahead. And we already talked about how this could be a special Christmas present for someone, like a grandma or a smaller sibling. But Mother's Day, guys, mothers go crazy for things like this. If you want to do a special book that's specifically like for a mom, right? And that's in May. So yes, that would be thinking way ahead. But I know if I had done something like that for my mom, she would have kept it for forever. Superheroes are great. Objects that come to life. A to Z books. If you have a certain person you're really fascinated by, like you think Benjamin Franklin is the coolest dude of all time and you want to do a biography book, that's fine too. So the only thing you have to avoid, anything that's not actually a story, and it has to be school appropriate. So,